Hey guys, I'm here with the amazing Vivian Krause, who you've probably heard about. Vivian has broken open one of the biggest stories in Canadian politics in the last decade, and it's only now starting to get mainstream media attention. Vivian, why don't you just give us a quick overview of your research on the tar sands campaign?
Well, you know, Jason, as you know so well, we're in a crisis. Here's Alberta, you know, the engine of the Canadian economy in many ways. No province has contributed as much to the prosperity of our whole country as Alberta. And, you know, on the eve of an election, the backbone industry of Alberta is practically broken because the province can't get a pipeline.
Yeah.
And sad to say, this didn't happen for no reason. This was planned. And it was planned as part of a Rockefeller-funded campaign to landlock Canadian crude.
So tell us about that campaign, starting back in 2008 with the Rockefeller brothers.
Well, so starting way back, you know, this goes back, actually I think the origins of it go back to not long after the beginning of the Iraq War, the California energy crisis, and a group of California philanthropists decided, hey, you know, we need to get serious about our energy policy. They were in crisis. In fact, in similar ways, sort of how Alberta is now in crisis. And so they rolled up their sleeves, opened their wallets, started to work together, and develop the domestic energy industry in the United States, of course, under the umbrella of the renewable energy industry. And they worked on a lot of good things, you know, energy efficiency, getting more kilometers out of every barrel. They're doing a lot of good stuff. But part of their strategy is to try and shift investment capital away from fossil fuels, and they've used Canada as the whipping boy. That's what their strategy
And ironically,
says.
so the explicit goal of this so-called tar sands campaign, basically the campaign is, as I understand it from your research, a consortium, a loosely knit consortium of U.S. foundations supporting so-called green organizations. So I would call many of them AstroTurf groups. With the explicit goal of essentially landlocking Canadian hydrocarbon energy. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, but I think it's important to understand why, okay? I think that they are doing this because they care about the climate and they're concerned about our use of fossil fuels. But look what's happened in the United States, right? They've more than doubled their own oil production. They're not trying to landlock Texas. They're not trying to landlock any other states. The only jurisdiction that they're putting the screws to is Canada. So I think what we need to say is, look, let's work together on the good things, right? Let's work together on renewables and energy efficiency, and let's do all that. Bring to bear the best minds so that we can actually innovate the technologies that we need, right? But right now, you know, people are saying, "Oh, go off fossil fuels." Yeah, that's like telling someone to make a phone call before the phone's been invented. First, we need to invent the phone, and right now we don't even have all the technology that we need. So we've got to do that first.
So, Vivian, how do you think it is that they got away with this campaign to landlock Canadian hydrocarbon energy while they've doubled U.S. oil production?
We let them get away with it, right? So now we just have to, you know, I think, recognize the good things that these foundations are funding. It's always important to give credit where credit's due, right? And also to recognize here that, you know, for instance, on the side that's been protesting the pipelines, those people are just as Canadian as you and me, right, Jason?
But let me ask you a question.
But the funders aren't.
On that, I remember back in the day, the 1988 free trade election, when the political left in Canada were all about economic nationalism, and they were opposed to, sometimes to the point of almost paranoia, about U.S. influence in Canada's economy and politics. Here you've got massive U.S. influence in our economy and our politics, and generally the left seems to be silent. I mean, you were trying to get Premier Notley's government to pursue a legal strategy against the tar sands campaign, and they've dropped the ball on it. So why do you think that is?
Well, as of about 9 days ago, it's very clear to me. You know, it's when I had a piece this morning, I guess it is, in the Financial Post, the National Post. And so what we learned just last week is that this organization called Lead Now, which was created by this Rockefeller-funded organization called Open, it claims credit in writing for influencing our 2015 federal election and other elections, okay? So this is the Rockefeller election machine, okay? And it's messing in your Alberta election. It's trying to defeat you, is what it's trying to do, because you're the only politician who has the audacity to want to break the U.S. monopoly that has our country over a barrel. And you know, Jason, you're going to have a daunting task, right? This is one of the most valuable trade relationships, as you know so well. You know this way better than I do. This is one of the most valuable trade relationships in the world. But we need to rethink it, because what we have right now is a win-lose, okay? So we build these pipelines, we break the U.S. monopoly on our oil, we say, ciao, it was great selling you our oil for the last how many decades, we're gone now. No, because that's a win-lose for the Americans. We got to turn this around. I know you know this already, right? So we got to find a way that we don't view this just as a construction project, but this is a a shifting of the trade relationship with our most important customers
So
and
on that
neighbors.
point, Vivian, I understand you've obtained a legal opinion indicating that the government of Alberta could get standing potentially in U.S. courts to sue some of these
Canadian courts
to sue some of these organizations for damages.
Actually, that wasn't what we specifically looked at. But I think the most important thing here is to make the main thing, and that's the truth. Okay, if all these activists were telling the truth about Alberta oil and the people who produce it, it wouldn't matter where the money's coming from.
So, what do you think the legal strategy is then that you were pursuing with the legal opinion in the Motley government?
Well, what I've been advocating is the most focused, measured, the most results-oriented piece of legislation that we can get away with. Focused on the retraction of inaccurate and false information. In particular, the false claim that Alberta oil production is associated with 3 to 4 times as much greenhouse gas emissions as conventional U.S. crude. That's false, okay? And the trouble is that we allowed that sort of narrative to be established, and now there's this talk out there about dirty oil, right? Alberta's dirty oil. Well, no, we have to get the facts. We have to get back to the facts, right? So I think what we need to do is, and here's the thing, Jason, I'm sure you know this already way better than me. So if the goal of these activists, as we now know, because they've said it in writing, the goal was to landlock our crude by stopping all the pipeline projects, okay? And they created essentially a trade wall. But it's not bricks and mortar, it's emotions. It's fear, it's shame. They've made us, apologizing for this industry. And, if anyone can build and operate a pipeline properly, it's us, it's Canadians. We're competent, we're conscientious, we care about the environment, right? That's the whole thing about these pipeline projects. It's not the pipelines that bring the gas all throughout our country, it's the people.
Yeah.
And we have the best trained people. Canadians care about the environment. I've talked to so many people in the oil industry who are always telling me about, new ways they're doing things and how carefully they're doing things, right? So anyway, what we need to do is, you've got all this opposition because of all the misinformation that's out there. And we have to be fair, there are some legitimate issues, right? We use a lot of oil.
Yeah.
We use 1,000 barrels of oil every second. It takes Mother Nature millions of years to produce this stuff, and we're burning it up at the rate of 1,000 barrels a second. It's too much, too fast, right? So we got to make better use of the fossil fuels we still do need to burn, while we innovate. When I was in your legislature, in Edmonton, I saw the mace, the original mace. That mace? I couldn't believe it. This is true Alberta spirit, right? And my dad's born here in Alberta, so it kind of makes me think about it. But here's your mace made out of a shaving cup, right? You know this story, right? It's made out of this shaving cup. The knob off a bed, right? A pipe, and the float from a toilet bowl, and these little teacup handles. That's, to me, is Alberta ingenuity. And that's what I would love to see Alberta bring to the global energy market.
So,
energy ingenuity.
I love it. Just to close off, you said you wanted to make a point to Albertans about how important it is to vote.
So the 9. Did you watch Sesame Street? You must have watched Sesame Street. Okay, you remember how this program is brought to us by the number whatever? Well, this election has got to be brought by the number 9. Okay, because in BC, I'm from BC, right?
Yeah.
So we had on our last election, on election night, the election was lost by 9 votes. 9 votes, and a lot of people were kicking themselves that they hadn't made more of an effort to get out and vote, right? In the end, there was a recount, and the BC Liberals lost by, it was about 160 votes that they lost, right? So to me, that's a big lesson. And Alberta, don't make that mistake, right? Get out and vote.
Yeah.
Because Alberta, and it's not just Alberta, our country, Jason. Our country needs a leader, and I want to thank you for stepping up. I believe in you. Because you listened. I know you listened because you listened to me, even when everyone was still saying it was a conspiracy kook, right? So thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And we're going to speak now to the Rally for the North up here in Valley View. Hundreds of trucks and implements from all across the province coming together to speak out for Alberta jobs, for Canadian sovereignty, so that we can have a prosperous future here. So thanks very much, Vivian.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Great to be here.
Thank you.